Okay, we're here in Sonoita, Arizona, Nizhoni Ranch with Stephen Getzwiller. Stephen, you've been doing this for 45 years. Tell us how you got started.
When I was 18, I traded my childhood collection of 22 rifles for my first Navajo rugs.
Wow.
And I haven't looked back. My inspiration came from the Ameren Foundation, which I spent a lot of time at as a young boy. And I would freely go through the collections and such. And I'm actually a seventh generation rancher.
Okay.
And first and last generation Indian trader. But it was that exposure that prompted me to decide that I wanted to pursue that career.
Really?
Yeah.
Seen at a young age and
right.
Taking it up.
I was a licensed trader at Zuni, Pueblo in 1972 and 3.
Oh, really? How old were you then?
My early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. I was the youngest one out there for sure. I was dealing in Lunchbox Bisbee and Morenci turquoise.
Oh, okay. And then you just fell in love with the weavings as well?
I've been doing it ever, I traveled the reservation a couple times a month. It would take me, literally, in those days there was enough trading posts left. It would take at least a week and a half to cover them all. And I've got some interesting stories about some of them. But then I started out brokering weavings for the various trading posts.
Okay.
And then I'd leave the reservation. You have to go to Denver and Santa Fe and sell things, before I could come home.
Wow.
And I remember dealing with Don Jensen at Crystal Trading Post in the early 70s. And when I first went there the very first time, all the Navajos were milling around outside. It was noon.
Uh-huh.
And I wondered why everybody was standing around outside. I just walked on in, and Don's laying on the counter with his head, using the wrapping paper roll as a cushion. And he lifts up his hat and he said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm here to buy rugs." He said, "Well, it's noon. I'm closed." But our relationship really budded and became something from there. He had a vault that he kept things in, maybe a 25-watt bulb hanging in the middle.
Really?
And that's so you couldn't see all the moths
Oh,
crawling around. And, he identified me as being one of his top buyers. There was a buyer from Museum of Northern Arizona, another guy from California, and myself, he identified as being his top buyers. And he identified me as being the guy that bought the best larger rugs.
Okay.
The guy from Museum of Northern Arizona bought the nicer small rugs.
I see.
So he would isolate them around and bring them out.
Wow.
And the fact that I showed up every month, rain or snow, and I mean snow, was a big deal, because I was dependable cash flow.
Right.
So.
And kind of going back to then and, kind of up till now, tell us about, some of the different styles of rugs and the way that they're kind of differentiated.
Contemporary or
I guess maybe...
your regionals developed from pre-1900, after the Navajos were relocated on the reservation.
Okay.
Your traders would establish in various trading regions and try and develop their own style that would be identifiable to them.
To that trading post?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's where you get the Tisnas Pass, Two Great Hills, Ganado, that sort of thing.
I see.
And prior to that, the blanket era, a lot of these earlier blankets, there's no way to identify where on the reservation they came from, because they did those kind of things everywhere.
I see. When you start working with collectors and they want to buy high quality rugs, what are some of the things that you tell them about that you can ways to discern that quality?
Well, when I first started collecting, I had very limited means. So, and one thing I certainly learned all the years of brokering, rugs for posts, is that your best deals were not always your best things. Right. So some of those best deals would stick to you. Right. And so what I do is encourage, and what I've always done in my own collecting since I learned, is to buy the best things that I can get my hands on. And because that's what you're least apt to tire of. Right. So that's what I encourage people to do. And I've judged every major competition for Navajo weaving. And the first thing I tell my fellow judges is, if it's this much out of square, don't expect me to throw it out. I'm looking at the art. And
so by art, you mean the quality of the design? The overall visual effect
that is created by the weaving. In blanket era times, what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of these blankets, certainly sarabes, should be displayed horizontally rather than vertically, because in the weaver's mind, the central design is what she had in mind to create the impact of that blanket as it would have been viewed as worn. The border end designs were not nearly as important.
So it's all about
the focal point. That's what made the wearer stand out in a group.
So it's where the eye goes right to.
Right. For instance, in this third phase, which is probably hard for you to take in, it's a little out of your range there, but that central focus, that's designed so that you would be viewed as would have been worn.
I see.
What we have here is an example by Selena Yazzie. That's her latest weaving. She used a number of leftover colors. She loves to use serrate designs. And the colors in here primarily are natural dyed. Selena is someone I've worked with for over 35 years. And I think this is a masterpiece. She's pretty thrilled with it too. A sand painting that I had in the last show was Best of Textiles at Gallup Intertribal last year, and that she accomplished, and she was really thrilled with that recognition.
And tell us about the wool and the dyes.
It's churro wool. The dyes are primarily natural. They come from, I have a dye artist in the Tawas area that dyes yarn for me. I provide her the churro wool.
And that one you said dates to?
This is an 1880s Germantown Saltillo design. These are the exact proportions of a Saltillo serape, Saltillo design elements.
And by Saltillo, you mean Saltillo?
Saltillo, Mexican influence.
Okay. So it was one of the Spanish ones.
Yeah. After Bosque Redondo, the Navajos were greatly influenced by Saltillos and Rio Grande weavings. And a nice introduction here is the Germantown salt and pepper, which is a tie-dye effect.
How would they get that?
Well, they bought it that way.
The wool.
Right. Okay. This is also a tie-dye effect here.
And that has some...
Where she would use just more short pieces of yarn to create that effect.
So, it dates back to 1880s. So they were looking at old Spanish rugs, do you think? That design is so complex.
This, in all likelihood, was woven in a Hispanic household. And because a reservation weaver there would not have been a market in that time frame for an Hispanic weaving on the Navajo reservation. And when I mentioned to you earlier how they would introduce an intentional design defect, here you go.
Oh.
See how that's intentionally off center?
Oh, yeah. And that was used as a rug?
That was used as a blanket, probably.
As a blanket, okay.
Actually, it's hard, given the condition, is likely never used. These were very high value in their day.
Right.
And highly valued and cared for. They didn't throw them on the floor and use them up.
I see. Yeah, because the colors look so fresh.
Yeah, it's really vibrant.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've even ever had this one cleaned. This is a red mesa from the 1920s time frame that illustrates Rio Grande and Saltillo design elements.
Combined.
Right.
And Red Mesa is in...
It's the adjacent trading post to Tisnas Pass in the Four Corners area.
Okay.
That's her version of a storm pattern. And this is Churro wool. Our aniline dyes come from Switzerland. They're the very finest available today. And in our dyeing process, we intentionally try to create the variegation to...
Within the colors.
Yeah, the variegation in the design color.
Okay.
To add dimension to the piece that you don't see in other contemporary Navajo weaving.
I see. And then so when that comes out through the process.
Right, in the dyeing process. Actually, the gray actually is variegated as well.
Oh.
Is this Germantown optical double saddle blanket? If you notice how it creates an optical illusion with the checkerboards. This pink color is actually a recarded American flannel with native wool to create that color. And this is probably an aniline dyed American flannel. This was handed down through the family of the Hines family.
Oh.
It came out of a cabin of theirs in northern Washington State.
And when did you say it dates from?
This would date 1880s.
Okay, so they probably purchased it at a trading post?
Hard to say. Hard to say.
Okay.
I mean, I acquired it from a dealer in the Seattle area that I got a lot of my oratones from, the Curtis pieces, maybe 10, 15 years ago, and he thought I was nuts to pay the price I did. But I have never, and I've seen a lot, I've never seen a Germantown saddle blanket with that kind of an optic in it.
So you see
and,
something...
And certainly the provenance doesn't hurt either.
No. So you see something like this, and then you're like, okay...
I'm a collector first. I mean, I buy the best things I can get my hands on. And I've been known to pay some, record-setting prices at the time that, I identify what's rare.
Right.
And
well, you see something like that you've never seen before, you're probably thinking...
Well, and frankly, I mean, I bought this 10, 15 years ago. I haven't seen anything else like it since. And it wasn't unusual for weavers to duplicate aspects of designs and that sort of thing, because if it was successful in the marketplace, they would do it again and again. And that's a lot of what J.B. Moore was. The various plate pieces, you see all these variations on the theme of those various plates. And that's what they are, is variants of those plates. And that's a show I intend to do at some point in time. I'm going to title it J.B. Moore and More.
Oh.
It'll be, classic plate designs and then pieces that are obvious influence of those designs.
Tell us for a couple minutes about the show that's opening here in about a month.
It's going to be titled Navajo Weaving as Modern Art. And it'll be pieces that I think reflect, go well above and beyond what you would have seen in contemporary Navajo weaving or even historic Navajo weaving. I have pieces that are very M.C. Escher-esque, and they preceded, they were woven in the 1920s. Escher wasn't even known in this country until the 1950s. So you got to wonder what they were thinking, because you wouldn't have thought there would be a market.
Right.
But obviously there were some traders out there that had some vision.
Right. And then abstract painting didn't take off until after World War II, so they were doing this.
Right.
Well,
The focus of the show in Tucson, the dazzled eye, is all very, very, optical art type pieces.
I see.